Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining the webinar today. We'll be presenting a case study on one of our customers who has asked us not to disclose their names, but we'll go ahead and present their case story as permitted. This is a customer who is a global pharmaceutical corporation who has successfully gone live with SAP GTS and uses a customs broker for their import filing. Our presenters today are Michael Vendalian, who is an SAP GTS product manager at SAP, and Jay Peria, who is an SAP GTS solution architect at Krypt, who will be presenting the case study. And now on the next slide, we'll just go over some quick housekeeping tips. If questions arise during the webinar, please type them into the GoToWebinar panel as shown in this example, and we'll try to address all questions at the end of the presentation during the Q&A portion. Now I'd quickly like to introduce Krypt. Krypt Inc. is a leading SAP global trade and supply chain consulting partner with over 350,000 hours of SAP consulting through various industries. We provide services such as implementations and upgrades, customizations around SAP solutions, including GPS, EWM, TM, and HANA. We do offer custom solutions, integration services, and we work closely with SAP for ramp-ups and testing. We actually have authored several books, and just a quick plug, we did just release our part 1 and part 2 of the latest book, which is a practical guide to SAP GTS, which was co-authored by another one of our customers, Kevin Riddell from Tremco. And on the next slide, just a quick look at some of our customers here. Now, without further ado, I'll hand it off to Jay, who will be discussing the case study on filing with a customs broker.
Thanks, Colleen. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jay, and thanks, Colleen, again for the nice introduction. Let's start the case study. So, as Colleen said, our case study is about one of our clients who is a global pharmaceutical giant who has operations around the globe, and we are not authorized to reveal their name. But there's an interesting story we are going to go through in the next 1 hour or so. We call it the company. So this company, the pharmaceutical company, they have been using a legacy system for custom filing purpose through a broker at the moment, which has a lot of manual data entry and, of course, a lot of errors through that. And this legacy system is not compatible with the company's version of internet browser. That is one of their key pain areas to go into a new system. And there are no automatic compliance checks, systemic compliance checks in place. There were cases of unintentional compliance violations. Another key requirement of this company is they want to, as they have been filing, the ABI filing requirements such as various governmental agencies, Customs and Border Protection, Food and Drug Administration, U.S. Department of Agriculture, etc. So these key import filing, they would like to do it through the system. And talking about their volume, it's about 9,000 plus high-valued import shipments happening at this point of the time. And why do they need a new system to do all these functionalities? They, as we said, they are a global giant and they have a backbone ERP, SAP ERP is running. And there's a group ERP policy enforcing them to come and join the ERP party instead of working on an old legacy system. So these are kind of key requirements of this company to go for a new system to use their import filing requirement. Let's go ahead to the next slide. Let's talk about the key challenges here. in one sentence, it's a transformation of existing legacy import filing process into a more seamless integrated system as per the client's group ERP policy. Going ahead, let's see what are the key objectives and challenges for this implementation. So reducing annual operating expenses. At the moment, the company is using a third-party browser-based application, which they pay a hefty amount annually for a retainership and licensing. And they would like to have some improved system functionality in the new system. At the moment, it's not possible. It's not coming to their system like line item level FDA release functionality, meaning like when any FDA related shipment arrives and different status available to them, like it's on hold, it's releases, or it's held for final exam, these kind of details. At the shipment level, the broker provides them through their legacy system, but at the product level, at the line item level, it's not available. This is just one example, as I said, and they would like to have it in the new system. And another objective is to ensure uninterrupted data flow through the clients or our company's SAP data network. At the moment, every data in the SAP ERP system, they will have to key in the legacy system in order to prepare any filing through the broker. And another key objective is limiting these manual data entry and, of course, the errors and the compliance, like various codes, the affirmation codes, the commodity codes, control classifications, etc., and reducing manual errors and, of course, the time consumed by that. At the same time, even though the client would like to, the company would like to keep, even though the company would like to move into a new system, they want the broker services as well. The custom brokers provide a number of services to the global trade department, and they would like to keep their service. And the group ERP policy of the company forces them to use an integrated system and other group practices and adhere to these policies. So these are the various aspects of this particular project, and let's see how we cope with that. Going ahead. So to meet all these requirements and adhering to these policies and the department's the business processes, so there were two solution options were presented to this global trade department of the company, and both the solutions are using SAP Global Trade Services. The first key thing, use or do import self-filing from the system without broker system. Number two, transmit the import declaration details to a broker system from the company's new system, and broker will file on behalf of the company. At the moment, what is the key difference? At the moment, there is a legacy system, a browser-based system in place, which is 100% manual data entry. They will have to key in all the details what they have in their ERP and on paper, key in and send it to broker. That legacy system is just acting as a postman, nothing. There are not much validations, not much compliance screening, nothing much. But the new system is going to have the compliance, the data integrity, and more scalable and the transparency into that. So as I said, there are two options. One is self-filing from the system, and others is going through broker system. Let's go ahead. And let's see how technically it will look like, these two options. The first one, the system landscape will look like this. Option number 1, which is self-filing. So on the right-hand side, you can see the ERP system, SAP ERP system, and the GTS is part of that. This is our would-be system, and going through a standard middleware. And since we are self-filing, you cannot see the broker system anywhere in this picture. Directly on this right-hand side, the customs ABI system, automatic broker interface. That system will give you responses once they receive any declarations, and the responses are coming back to our own system, the standard gateways and middleware systems, and for us to see the responses and make our business decisions accordingly. And option number 2. So in this system landscape, we are going through the broker. So you could see our system on the left-hand side, our ERP systems and our GTS, Global Trade Services, and we're just going through a standard SAP middleware. And you can see the middleware transform the data into the format the broker wants, and the broker gets the details. They do their due diligence and submit to the customs ABI, and customs give the broker back the responses. And the broker's system, it's not just one broker, more than one broker's exist, and these brokers give the responses and other information back to us in our internal system. So these are the two options that we presented to the company's global trade business, the project sponsors. And if you look at the main key difference is, first is self-filing without any broker system. Second is giving the details, filing through the brokers, transmitting the required details to the brokers, and the broker files on behalf of the company. Let's go ahead. In the end, so these are the key decision point arrived, and in the end, the decision has been taken. Let's talk about it. The first one, implement a sustainable, comprehensive global trade compliance and customs management system, and but use existing custom broker service to file import declarations through our system. Let's go through the custom broker system and make use of the existing middleware infrastructure to communicate with multiple brokers. So we have more than one brokers, but the company has a major ERP backbone which has the capability to communicate outside systems and get the details back, get the responses back. So use the existing middleware infrastructure and implement a new system, but going through a broker. So that was the decision taken. Let's see more about this. Why did we choose SAP GTS? And as you can see, the beauty of it, the global master data and documents. So as you see, the SAP ERP system keep your customers info, your vendor records, your material records, your inbound transactions like your purchase orders, your inbound deliveries, your vendor invoices, your outbound transactions such as your sales orders, your deliveries, your customer invoices, etc. So everything is in one system there, and it's seamlessly integrated with the SAP GTS is going to be our global trade system. You can see the master data is aligned here, the transactional data aligned here, which we use for various services, the compliance services, like sanction party list screening, the embargo check, the license determination, the product classification such as export control classification numbers, the tariff codes, the Schedule B number if you use that, and the export licenses. Are we going to an embargoed country? Do we need an export license? That is in case of export. In the case of import, like from what country we are importing, like, and what is the tariff code of that? How much duty do we have to pay for that? These kind of determinations and these kind of calculations and the checks and balances are performed in SAP GTS, which is going to be our system now. Let's go ahead. And this is just like another view of it, not going much into technical details, but as you can see, all your import purchases and deliveries transactions, and on the right hand side the export transactions, and it goes into GTS seamlessly. You don't have to key it in again, and both are on the same technical platforms, and it is for our use, for our communication with the brokers and ultimately with the customs and other business partners. For example, someone keys in an import PO from the logistics or the purchasing department, it flows seamlessly into global trade desk. At the moment, they do the data entry for that. And once you process that particular information, we are ready to file with customs through the broker. All right. So you must be wondering, why would we choose a custom broker service for this filing, custom filing, when you can do it technically? So this is kind of a business and business decision. And why did you arrive on this? So let's see in this test case, in this case study, why did they choose a custom broker? So import filing, a custom broker allows this global trade group of the company to streamline all import-related business functions with the same service partner or a couple of service partners. So their import process is not just limited to a custom filing, and they have a number of other collateral services which the brokers help them to do it. So that's why they want to keep, it's like a one-stop provider for a shipment. So the department would like to keep the broker services for that. And one of the key functions they do, the import duty management. In many cases, the brokers are authorized to pay on behalf of the company to the customs the related import duty. And the determination of it, the calculation of it, they pay for it for a timely clearance, and later the reimbursement, that part. At the same time, when you go for a new integrated system with highly integrated in data, the data integrity and other controls, the global trade department is in total control of complaint stats such as product classifications. In case of licensing, import licensing are rare, but still there are import licenses in some case. The tariff code and other affirmation codes, which are very crucial for any custom filing, that is taken care of. But if the company selected the other option of direct self-filing, they may not be able to do it at the current strength of their department, the staff strength. So they are such a small group in this particular case study, less than 10 people handling this multi-million imports on a daily basis. So without the help of custom brokers, they won't be able to do it. So these are, when we compare these two options, like direct self-filing, yes, technically it's possible, but can we sustain that sort of volume and operational tasks with this small group of people? that was a key factor in that. And the old legacy system, which was a third-party application, but the new system is going to be one of our applications, one of our internal IT applications. The company has a huge force, IT operations. They are supporting the existing ERP landscape and various applications worldwide, not just in North America. They have in North America and Europe and Asia Pacific. So both sides, both the options were evaluated. In the end, it was decided that it would make more sense to go through a broker system other than a self-filing direct method. Going ahead, let's talk about the solution. So the solution that we implemented, it leverages existing SAP architecture at the company's place, and the solution is a sustainable global trade compliance and customs management system. So it screens, as I said, it screens the partners, it checks the products were properly classified for ECCN, for HTS, etc. And it checks for the various embargo check, for example, whether it's coming from an embargoed country, or in other case, is it going to an embargoed country, etc. And it is the capability. There is a capability of sending and receiving import declaration data to a custom broker and back. The response is back, and there are interfaces. Make use of existing middleware, and we're not spending additional money to build a new infrastructure, technical infrastructure to communicate multiple brokers. So that system is in place. So we are just leveraging those existing technical capability to communicate with these brokers. Going in detail about the solution, how this import filing work through a broker system. So the first step, the import PO, the purchase order, for example, a shipment comes from Germany, it lands in New York, just for an example. So the import PO, you don't need to key in as it was in the old system. The 95% or 90% of the details came directly from your ECC system, which is your ERP system. And the remaining 5 or 10%, the details like your mode of transport, your airway bill number, these kind of things that only the global trade department knows about it, and they can key in those details before submitting. And when we talk about the manual entry here, in some cases there are non-commercial products. For example, every pharma company's got research projects going on. They need umpteen number of these research-related materials coming from other countries. It's not a commercial import. These are like non-commercial materials or products. So it's not even in their ERP system. So those kind of shipments, even though it's an import, it's not in our ERP system, but you still have to process it through the customs. So there is a facility to accept it. Sorry, there is a facility to key in those manual transactions and complete the required information and send it to the broker. And the broker gets this information, and after their due diligence, if everything is in place and what extra details that we can add here, or is it mode of transport is correct, they do their check and they file electronically with their with the US Customs, and the Customs ABR system giving them back the responses, whether it is accepted and giving a reference number back, or it's failed technically, need additional details. So many kind of responses you might get from various agencies, like your border protection, customs, CBP would need an entry summary of it, and the FDA would be more interested in what kind of FDA codes is attached to. The USDA give various status. So all these governmental agencies relevant for this import transaction, they give the responses electronically back to the broker, and brokers send these responses and if any additional details back to our system through the interface. So any system is not complete without some meaningful reports. So reports have been maintained. For example, import report. An import report would tell you that how many imports that you have completed in so and so period of time, and what sort of FDA messages we received, and how many shipments were held for so and so reason, and was there any concerns raised by USDA in the past 6 months. I mean, those kind of reports that we implemented in that system. Let's see a process overview of this import filing in this broker model. As we said, the main ERP got a big comprehensive materials management system, and the purchasing would key in, or the purchasing would be responsible for entering their import purchase orders, and the global trade team gets this ready-made actually in their plate. They got the import purchase orders in their system without doing anything, and anything much in a manual task, I mean, and they can put in their extra information that they have and make it an import declaration and send it to the broker, and broker then takes over for the import filing. So this was just a technical overview of this customs management process in this broker model. Let's talk about the solution highlights. How would this new system help the company to run their global trade effectively? In this case, you can see their actual screens, and this SAP GTS screen. These purchase orders came from their ERP systems, and you can see even their vendor code and other quantity and product information here. See, they select this import, and for broker communication, the users at the global trade department just pick and choose which delivery, so which for import shipment I'm going to process today. So they are processing one or two or many. The beauty of it is that by inheriting this data, which is already available in their ERP, into their global trade desk, they are alleviating 95% of manual entries, missed manual entries, and those manual errors. So once you have that PO, which is brought in from the details, you get all kind of information, like your partners, like from where it's coming, where it's going to, what is the port attached with that, what kind of packaging is it, and what is the description of it. So all these details are on your plate. Moving on to the next slide. And other beauty of the system is capable of maintaining and transmitting the required affirmation codes, the commodity codes, the classification numbers, etc. So you can see in this particular line item level case, there is a PKI code, the affirmation of compliance codes, and there is an MID, manufacturer ID, used for this particular line item level. And for the labeling purpose, we need to specify the temperature controls of it. So and so product has to be kept in this temperature range. It has to be from 0 degrees Celsius to 20 degrees Celsius, those kinds. So many of these factors are attached to products. So the system has capabilities of maintaining these kind of codes and attaching to the product and transmitting to the broker and the customs effectively. Okay. And these are some of the highlights of this solution. The first one is ECC integration. ECC is their ERP system. It's reduced inventory, as I said, annual, and the purchase order is coming to their system, to GTS system. So reduce manual entry, and the provision to enter non-SAP import purchases, like your non-commercial shipments, which are not in your ECC system. And it supports transmission of HTS codes, FTA Pro codes, and other OGA codes. Your FTA Pro code is there, and this smaller FDA codes attached with this HTS codes, and as I said, affirmation codes, the temperature controls, and number of in a pharma industry. Actually, it's more kind of coding you have to associate it with your actual product while you submit to the customs authorities. Once you submit, various departments give you the statuses like CBP, FDA, USDA, and other OGS, and the system has a capability of receiving it and storing it and using it effectively. Let's look at some of the key features of this solution. One of them is one-click submit. So say your purchase order came from SAP. You need a couple of extra details to be added, like, okay, the correct available number and the mode of transport was mentioned was not correct, everything adjusted, MRDs are perfect. Once, and the system will go through an incompleteness checks. Once it's complete, you are ready to submit to the broker for customs communication. You are selecting it, the message, and just one click. So you don't need any external email services. This document will be directly in their systems, and when I say there, the custom broker system. And the broker then processes and send it to US Customs. Once you submit a shipment to broker for customs processing, the broker will submit to the customs and they get the response, and the broker gives us back various responses, not just one. As you can see here, we get in this particular import shipment, you have your CBP responses, you have your FDA responses. So one of them is just highlighted here, like, this particular shipment got an FDA response, which says that FDA exam issued. This is just for presentation purpose. This may not be real, but they just give you a code, a date, and the reason of it. And even the date, you should have a capacity to read it and translate into our system way of displaying it to the users. So the green lights here, like just for example, it's showing everything came in correctly. Technically, it's all green signal, but the business user will read it as, okay, this particular shipment and this particular line item got an FDA exam response, which in turn would say that this shipment is needed an additional FDA examination, etc., or an FDA release or FDA hold, these kind of messages. Going ahead. Another key feature. The previous system, even though they were giving these governmental agencies responses, but it was all at the header level, all at the shipment level. So there were no transparency into what's happening at the various line items. So your import shipment could have, say, 10 line items or 10 different products, or the same product as 10 different packages. But how a customs or USDA or an FDA responds to your shipment. So the beauty of the new system is we will get the line item level status about every shipment, all the responses. So one line item can have more than one status from different governmental agencies that you can see. This is just an example purpose. This particular line item got 3 statuses from 3 different government agencies, and it would say the status code. It's a which governmental agency it is and what was the status when it was received, etc. And the comprehensive reports will show what kind of business decision it was, what kind of extra additional tasks required for each and every transaction. Going ahead. As I said, it's a line item level release status, which was not available in the previous system, which is available especially in the FDA case. Let's talk about, let's see how this new system look like. As we saw earlier, our ERP system at the left-hand side, SAP ECC, and it's going through a standard SAP middleware, and it's coming. These import purchase orders are processed by these global trade departments, going through the standard SAP middleware and going to the broker system. And broker process it, going to the US Customs. US Customs give the responses back, and broker gives this response and additional responses on a periodic basis or on an online basis back to our system electronically. We spoke a lot about various decisions has to be taken, and the decision taken and the technical advantages of it. Let's talk about the lessons learned from this type of a broker model import filing implementation. The challenges in deployment. First, to identify the most suitable technical middleware for the data transfer, which is sustainable and adhere to the company's policies. Every company will have their own policies, their IT department, and identify what suits. It may not be, sometimes we cannot go for the best. We have to adhere to the group policies. So understand that and take the decision and get everyone onto the same page, like your sponsors and other stakeholders, and take the decision accordingly. And there could be more than one brokers. In our case study, yes, there were 2 different brokers, and they use 2 different internal systems. And one of them was having their own system, and one of the brokers used another third-party system in order to run their operations. So there are complications. Even though you are transmitting same style of data on a day-to-day basis, the brokers could have different internal systems. So what are the keys for a successful implementation like this? Understand the possible impact of your implementation to the company's global trade and logistics team. and what would happen process-wise and other technical change management processes. There is a new system coming in place, but we are not changing the business processes into a greater extent and understand the impact of it and mitigate it. So analyze advantages such as scalability, transparency, and integration of a new system, and explain to business sponsors. So someone is funding your project internally, some business, your global trade department or your supply chain department is funding this project. So it would be great if we can explain the features such as scalability. For example, as we saw, at the moment, the company processes 9,000 plus import orders. It could be 20,000 or maybe 30,000 within a couple of years. And can the system handle it? Yes. So this kind of, and the transparency and the reporting capability, the integration of it. We are not re-entering the same data again and again at many departments. We are leveraging the SAP import data and using it effectively. So explain it to the sponsors. It would help a lot. The gap analysis of any project, like the old systems conveniences and reporting capabilities, that of the new system, the to-be systems convenience and capabilities. Sometimes the users are very much familiar with an old legacy system, which they use for 12 years, and they know how to use it even at midnight. If you call someone, within few minutes they can key in an import shipment, and there will be resistance, of course, from any group when we implement a new system. But the when you say convenience of okay, when you submit to the broker, you don't know what commodity code it is. You just key in like a 9-digit HTS code and you just pass it to the broker. You just assume that your broker will take care of the rest. But whereas the new SAP GTS system or the solution that we implement, it has got its own checks and balances, like it would check whether this particular code is correct or not, and the data integrity is maintained or not. Can we actually assign this to a product, or is it an invalid code, or is it still the validity is expired? Those kind of things will be taken care of in the new system. So to understand this and explain it to the stakeholders and in advance, so that that would help a lot during the successful implementation. Some other lessons learned, like negotiate all technical requirements during blueprint stage itself. Say you are going to implement a new system, so even though drastically you are not changing your business processes, but the way you communicate with the broker changes. So there are a number of brokers, as we said, they are using different systems. So bring them to the discussion table from the beginning itself, from the blueprint stage itself, so that we are going to change our system, and the data, the technical method would be different, and your system should be able to receive data from us, and your system should be able to give the responses back. And what are the challenges? If you have any challenges, you would be able to cope with that in order to continue in a successful business partnership. And those kind of discussions at the high level and even at the micro level should happen as soon as possible. So it's not like in many cases the high level discussions would happen. Oh yes, we can handle any sort of data, but when we actually get to a point where the data is communicated to their test system, nothing happens sometimes. So these kind of technical discussions will have to be done in the very early stage of the project. And the other valid point is like work with the third-party data providers and the purchasing team early in the project. So in any global trade environment, you need, especially in SAP GTS application and the related implementation here, we need content from of sanctioned party list from a third-party provider. We need content of HTS codes of US and in some cases, some other countries, HTS codes as well. So these data providers will have to be in action in early, as much as early as possible. Like sometimes the big the company is, you know, to have a new vendor in place would be difficult. The bureaucracies are there, and that has to be taken care of much earlier, if possible in the blueprint stage itself, and ensure that you get sustainable support from all stakeholders, your sponsors, your business, your IT department, who's going to support you after the implementation, your brokers, IT folks. So there are a number of people. Sometimes the broker is dealing with their own third-party system. So it's a chain reaction. So all these partners should be on the same page. And if one component drops, maybe the entire thing would not be rolling from that moment onwards. So many cogs in the wheel, everyone has to be on the same page. And later, so what exactly the value provided by this new change of system or new system, new import filing, the broker model system to the company. So if you take at the point, like migration of old legacy import filing system into a new integrated, scalable, and stable in-house system. That's the key word, in-house. It's not a third party. You own it. And use existing broker service. As I mentioned earlier, like the customs broker services are still in place so that the small group of team can manage the high valued and high volume of imports effectively, and cost saved, avoiding third-party system usage, the hefty licensing and other costs that we pay to the third-party provider to use their system just to communicate to the broker. That is solved, and we are replacing it with our own in-house system. And when we thought about can we file directly the self-filing method, and we implement the self-filing method, if we are going for that, this small group may not be able to handle that, and would need more people, more staff augmentation is required. So that sort of extra expenses is saved for this self-filing method. So these are just overview of what exactly the value the company received from this project implementation. Let's talk about the key values of the broker model. The continuing relationship with the brokers. So just saying it again. So import brokers are one of your key partners in the business. The relationship is maintained by using their system, and solution to some of the pain areas, like are you getting line item level status of your FDA responses, just for an example. Yeah. And are your reports clear enough for the global trade department to take some key decisions or evaluate their personnel's performances, or what exactly caused so much delays and so on, so shipments? I mean, those sort of pain areas are the key requirements we are getting through this new system. cost saved, as I said in the previous slide, cost saved in licensing of a third-party system by replacing it with an in-house system. And in-house, you are not creating an in-house department here. There is already a huge workforce supporting your ERP system and other systems. And this our new system GTS implementation will become just a new kid in the block. So cost is saved tremendously here. Of course, the main point is integration with the mainstream SAP landscape in the company. So they have this ERP system which they run to run their order to cash business streams, their material management, their purchasing, their manufacturing, and their customer service, their CRM. I mean, everything is in their main SAP landscape, and this is added, Global Trade Services is added to another system which is highly integrated. As we saw earlier, we are not keying in any purchase order again. We are getting that purchase order data on your plate in order to process it. This is just some key points of the business value this broker model provides. And that's the end of describing about this case study. Handing over this to Mike for more information.
Thanks, Jay. That was a very good, insightful overview of your GTS project.
Thank you.
Apologies, everyone. We know that we are coming up to the hour, and some of you might probably have to go, but we will continue with the presentation as planned. We will share the presentation slides after this, and you will also have access to the recording. Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Bundalian from SAP Global Trade Services in Product Management, licensed customs broker, and I've been with SAP GTS for about 13 years now. I helped certify GTS with ABI and ACS, and now ACE. Today I will be presenting to you our current initiative around broker enablement in GTS. Next slide, please. So when we certified GTS with the automated broker interface of US Customs back in 2008, our primary focus was the self-filing model. This was and it still is the customs declaration filing model that's more common in other parts of the world, in Europe, Australia, and Asia. But since then, SAP has seen the broker filing functionality being implemented in multiple GTS installations in the US. And last year, a group of GTS customers, and probably some of you are on the call right now, customers that operate in multiple countries came together and presented their case with SAP to deliver the ability to do broker integration in GTS. How can I have visibility to my broker's performance? Direct communication to customs in my country is not available, so how do I file my declarations? I want to keep working with my broker, but I prefer to do it more electronic. And other questions like GTS is not localized in my country. How can I make it work? So very good questions, and SAP listened and decided to make the investment. We've been collaborating with this group of global customers in gathering the requirements and defining the scope since last year. Next slide, please. So here's the current design that we're building in GTS. This is an active item at the moment, and we are doing development while also gathering more requirements and requests from the focus customers. All right, so the big picture. What do we have in here? So the first column would be ECC or any other backend application. GTS has been integrated with non-SAP backend applications before. In the middle, you have your GTS installation. On the right side, you have your broker's system, and to the rightmost is the customs authority. So understand that this broker enablement functionality is not just designed for the US market. It is designed for global companies to facilitate their entry declaration filing in whatever country or customs authority they have to operate in. Okay? So we do have new documents and new transactions and new web services. So if we follow the numbers, and we are going to go through that process flow, you will identify the new documents, new transactions, or new work lists, and new web services that we are currently building in GTS today. Okay? So on the left side, going back to SAP ECC, the native integration between ECC and GTS, we flow the purchase order and the inbound delivery. And we have a new document that we are creating in GTS to house the invoice information. And the bill of lading is an existing functionality in GTS today, where you can use that document to manually enter bill of lading information. So moving over to the GTS column, as you can see at the very top, you have the purchase order, the ASN, the invoice, and the customs rate bill. So this is CFB GTS terminology. So in our work list in GTS, you create the customs declaration request, which is then passed through to the web service directly to the broker, and the broker uses that customs declaration request to create the actual customs declaration in their system, files that with the customs authority, and in number 5, we have a web service to receive that customs declaration into GTS. And number 6, we have an accuracy check in GTS to make sure that what the broker has submitted meets your specific company requirements. And number 7, a customs declaration replicate, a copy of the customs declaration is stored in GTS. And of course, the tax statement from the broker received from the customs authority is also passed through to a web service, and that's automatically created in GTS. So just going through the process, we have the work list. We have a consolidated work list composed of the PO, ASN, invoice, the customs rate bill, or just the bill of lading. From the work list, we create the customs declaration request, and that is passed through the web service, from which the broker can create the customs declaration, and then submit it to customs, and also send a copy to your GTS system via the web service, and there's an accuracy check to create the declaration in GTS in number 7. So let's go through a little bit more detail about these specific documents and new transactions. So number 1, the customs invoice. So this is based on the supplier invoice, and there are 2 ways to create this object in GTS. You can manually input this, or you can interface some external data into GTS to automatically create that. This customs invoice is primarily used for the creation of the customs declaration request. You can use it as a selection criteria. You can scan specific invoices for data elements that you'd like to filter against. So you can create the customs declaration in GTS. And of course, those are combined with additional information from the PO, ASN, and the bill of lading. In the past, we have seen where customers use the valuation information from the commercial invoice to define the customs transaction value for the declaration. So that's an option to pull from the invoice instead of the purchase order. So other functionalities can benefit from the existence of this customs invoice. This is a new document object GTS, and primarily one of the things that I see as of great value is pulling the transaction value from the commercial invoice. Okay. Now moving on to the declaration request, of course, you have the bill of lading, the customs invoice, inbound delivery for the work list in number 2, and the PO, of course, is required as well. You can use that, today in standard GTS consolidation, you can pick specific POs, ASNs, bill of ladings, and now with the introduction of invoice, you have more flexibility and more information to build your declaration request. So after choosing the relevant items, the customs declaration is created. And once you create the declaration request, those items that are already included in that declaration will disappear off the work list. Moving on to number 3, the customs declaration request. So this groups the selected items, which the broker should create the actual declaration from. And of course, there's a web service to communicate that request from GTS to your broker. And today, you can only send one customs declaration to one broker. Okay? Or I should say, you can only send the customs declaration to one specific broker. Of course, you can send multiple declaration requests to that broker. Moving on to number 4. So this is a new web service. You can include the partner, the bill of lading, the information, or the invoice information, and purchase order information, down to the quantities and values and tariff numbers. So number 5, the web service for the customs declaration from the broker. So once the broker has finished the activities with the declaration request, she creates the actual entry and sends that information back to your GTS system. And of course, your customs declaration request has to be referenced. So number 3 has to be referenced in the customs declaration that the broker has created on your behalf. Moving on to number 6, accuracy check. We have a functionality existing in GTS today called the incompletion procedure, where you can define data elements that you'd like to have checked before a declaration can be sent out to the customs authorities. So this is the opposite, where you are receiving that information from your broker into GTS. The system will check the existence of mandatory fields, which can be enhanced with customer-specific checks, of course. And once GTS accepts the data, in number 7, a customs declaration replicate copy is created in GTS. So what is the customs declaration replicate? It's basically the copy of the broker's customs declaration, and it is non-editable, but it offers some communication capabilities. Number 8 is the tax statement web service. So this object already exists today. The web service is a new offering to facilitate that transmission from the broker to your GTS system. And of course, these are tied together with the customs declaration replicate using references. And one thing to point out, the customs declaration I think we were able to provide a lot of information. Thank you, Jay. And I will hand it over back to you.
Thanks a lot, Mike, and thank you, Jay, both for presenting. Everyone, thanks for those of you who are able to stay for the entire webinar. I know we went about 10 minutes over here, so I do apologize. I wanted to let everyone know that we will be reaching out to each of you who have asked questions. We've been receiving a lot of good questions throughout the webinar. And since we are past our time, I don't want to run through them too quickly. I want to answer them thoroughly. So we'll make sure to email each of you with those questions. Feel free to type any last questions you have in the GoToWebinar panel. Those are tied to your name, so we'll make sure to get back to each of you. Or as you can see on this on the screen here, we have our contact information, so you can reach out to any of us via email as well. So I'll just give it about one more minute for any last questions to come through, and as I mentioned, we'll follow up via email. And also, as Mike mentioned, we will be sending out a copy of the presentation as well. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end this webinar. I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation, and thanks a lot for all the questions. And you can look for an email from us within 24 hours. We'll be sure to get back to you with a thorough answer. Thanks again to our presenters, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.